team, and I will be moderating the webinar today. This webinar is part of the Oracle at Oracle webinar series, where you have the opportunity to hear from the executive team that's reimagined Oracle. In this series of webinars, we share insights from our own journey to the cloud and demonstrate how we're using Oracle Cloud to power our business and enable exceptional customer and employee experiences. And we're going to share our learning so others can do the same. So let's dive into today's topic. Over the next 45 minutes or so, we'll hear how Oracle is using Visual Builder to develop its next generation of enterprise applications. I'll hand it over to your webinar host, Jeff Price, to introduce himself. Jeff?
Thanks, JT. Good morning. My name is Jeff Price. I'm Vice President of Product Management for our Application Development Platform team. Happy to have everybody here today. So at Oracle, our mission is to help people see data in new ways, discover insights, unlock endless possibilities. That's our corporate mission. And of course, that mission is only as good as the user experience we deliver to people using our applications. And when we talk about applications, enterprise software, in our view, is just like any other software. And enterprise customers are just people, and people who want to have the same quality of user experience among their enterprise apps as they would have in any consumer application. And to achieve that, we have a new approach. It's a company-wide initiative and a design language we call Redwood. Redwood is Oracle's way of reimagining all of the user experiences we deliver. That includes everything from oracle.com to our applications, our infrastructure, our tooling, you name it. And what Redwood is designed to do is deliver that next generation of user experience across everything we build. The first wave of the Redwood user experience, or UX, is actually rolling out and has been rolling out for a little while. You see it on oracle.com today, and you're starting to see it in our applications. And I'll have a few examples here to show you. The beginning of that journey into Redwood user experience is a big effort by our design team, hundreds of talented designers redesigning all of the experiences among our applications. And that is really everything from the look and feel to the interactions to the motion of the applications. And that's been going on for a couple of years. That gets translated then into all of the componentry that an application uses. So everything that a user experiences or touches or sees in an application gets reimagined using the Redwood design system. Even the icons. You might think that's a small thing, and they are small, but over 1,000 Redwood UI icons to translate the design language into the actions that people take. Also components. There are over 500 components that we have built using our Oracle Jet JavaScript extension toolkit UI platform to translate the Redwood design into components that are used across our applications, both on the cloud and on premise. Those get assembled into templates. Templates are larger constructs, for example, an order entry page that combines all of the componentry, the iconography, the colors and motion specs into a template that our developers use to build this new generation of applications. So what does it look like when you put it all together into a real application? Let's take a look at a few of them. The application we're looking at here is called HCM Connections. It's an employee directory internal to a company where you can find your coworkers and learn more about them. You can see here a folding panel layout that combines a lot of the componentry that is central to the Redwood design language into an application. It starts with a search first experience where you can search for your coworkers and it's powered by a very high performance search backend. You can view things like the organizational structure for the organization, both in a web interface and mobile, because one of the central tenets of the Redwood design system is to have a smoothly responsive experience from an application designed for the web all the way down resized to a mobile factor. There's another application from the HCM team called the Opportunity Marketplace, which has already won an award from the Human Resource Executive. This is the way that employees can find, or non-employees even, can find gig opportunities within an organization. Again, both on the web and mobile. There's a new reimagining of the expense process. We all love to do our expense reports, right? Which is probably not a true statement. We want to make that, though, much more enjoyable, more productive, and easier for people to do. And so we've reimagined the expense report experience and done things like employed imaging and artificial intelligence to process receipts to make that whole experience more fluid and to, at the end of the day, deliver business value through greater productivity. Another application is what's called Journey that has rolled out to our HCM customers. This is how an employee onboards to a company and then goes through all of the processes that we all do over the lifetime of our relationship to an organization. So onboarding, doing career management, status change for benefits, or returning to the workplace after a time. Even things like updating your benefits each year, both on the web and mobile. So these are just a set of experiences that we have started to deliver using that Redwood design system. We think it delivers an awesome experience. We've gotten great feedback from customers, and a lot of developers at Oracle are using that Redwood design system and the toolkits we provide to reimagine applications. And when we talk about our applications, for our enterprise customers, that really means our Fusion applications: ERP, SCM, CX, HCM, and EPM. Suite of applications targeting our largest enterprise customers, leaders in all of these categories, all built on a common platform and infrastructure powered by Oracle Cloud. Oracle Cloud, or OCI as we call it, has done a lot of innovation over the years to provide a very powerful platform for all of these applications, as well as the underlying tooling. And when we talk about building and then extending Oracle Cloud applications, it starts with a set of platform services that we have built. Things like Integration Cloud, which provides integration and process management, identity management, content and experience, which provides all of the facilities for managing content in an organization. Visual Builder Studio, which is our developer experience. We'll talk more about that in a minute. Digital Assistant, an awesome, innovative platform that allows people to develop conversational experiences and embed those into applications. And you see those conversational experiences starting to appear throughout Oracle's Fusion application portfolio in things like expenses. And Oracle Analytics, super powerful platform for taking large volumes of data, visualizing, analyzing that, both within an application or outside. And the philosophy we have at Oracle is to make sure that as we use these platform technologies to build our applications, you get to use the same powerful tools that we do. So it's not a situation with where we've used some special in-house tooling and then you're left to your own devices when you want to extend or build new apps. No, all of the thousands of Oracle developers who are building Fusion applications today are using the same tooling that you get to use. We think that's a differentiator. We think it really accelerates innovation both for us and for you. And it also provides assurance that as you are building using this tooling, you are always going to be supported. It's the same tooling we're using to ship the applications you use. Let's go a little bit deeper and talk about the platform components that are powering this next generation user experience. And there are really 6 major things. There's the Redwood design system that we talked about, the Jet UI platform, which is the JavaScript platform that we use across Oracle. There are over 100 applications shipping using that Oracle Jet platform. It's an open source UI toolkit available on the web, you name it. Then there are the components and templates that we use to build these applications, and a component exchange with which you can access those same components and templates. So when you're using our tooling, you are able to access those same components that we build the applications from. That allows you to build very applications that are very well integrated with the core applications you get from Oracle. There are two kind of unseen platform components here that are powering the experience. One is search, a very powerful search platform underneath the application, serving up all the data to both accelerate the delivery of the data to the application and also accelerate the user experience. So when you're doing things like picking lists of values out of a set of fields, those are served up real time, very quickly by the search platform. And there's an insights and intelligence component here where the applications, as you're using them, are generating telemetry and intelligence that allows the applications to adapt and deliver better experiences over time. And then finally, there's something we call Visual Builder Studio. That's really at the center of all of the developer experience, both at Oracle for Oracle developers building Oracle apps, as well as for Oracle customers extending and customizing those apps, as well as for partners and ISVs building brand new applications. So let's go a little bit deeper into VB Studio. What we talk about for Visual Builder Studio is a complete developer experience. It's cloud native, served up from the Oracle Cloud, running in your browser, providing a visual development environment that has very high productivity, focused on low or even no code in many cases, to allow you to get to your business value quicker, provides a complete life cycle. And this is a super important point. When we're talking about enterprise applications developed by teams of developers, often in distributed geographic locations, you need to have a system that does things like source code management and Git, tracks your tasks and has agile processes for planning, has a wiki for communication, does rigorous code reviews, no code advances through the pipeline until you know it's ready and signed off, and has a powerful integration, continuous deployment, CICD system for taking the changes that you're developing and moving them through development to test to production in a very controlled manner. This is super important in any enterprise application, particularly applications that deal with critical corporate data. In addition, there's a service that runs your application, serves it up, gives you access to business objects, database, and security. The other point about Visual Builder Studio that's important here is that we've done the work to tightly integrate it with our cloud applications. That means things like the identity system, so you have single sign-on all the way through. It means things like being able to pick from a catalog of all the APIs and data that are served up by our applications and very easily choose which elements you might be using in your application. And it's also important that it's extensible. So while we give you a very high productivity, low code experience, if you need to drop into the code to get to the JavaScript, HTML, CSS of the application, you can do that. That also enables a powerful model for collaboration. So you might have developers in your organization that are very conversant in JavaScript and can build web components using the web component standard. They're pro coders, as we call them in JavaScript. They can work alongside the low coders who are assembling those components in an application, working from a design that has been given to them. So the complete spectrum of no and low code all the way to pro code, complete lifecycle management, tightly integrated with the Oracle applications. That's what Visual Builder Studio gives you. And when we say visual in Visual Builder, what we mean is almost all application design tasks are done visually, whether it's page layout, the flow of pages within an application, action chains, which allows you to define the logic of your application visually and follow that logic. Very important also, again, when you have a large development team, instead of a new developer having to look at somebody else's code and trace through the lines, they can look visually at the action chain and see exactly what it's going to do and use a debugger if they want to step through that. The CICD pipelines you use are defined visually, so you can visualize all the steps that a deployment goes through. Whether you're defining connections to Oracle SaaS apps or any other REST resource, you do that visually as well. And you have business objects, which is the way that you abstract data into relationships and triggers, for example. That's done visually, including the logic for those triggers. But it's important to note that while we give you all of this low code, high productivity, drag and drop power, you always have access to the code. We don't want to put you in a situation where you're boxed in by the capabilities of the tool. If you need to get to the code, you can do it. Drilling in a little bit more to the CICD platform. So again, when you're dealing with a distributed large development team, you need things like issue tracking to allow people to file issues, track the progress, know when they're closed out. Being able to plan using the agile model for your sprint execution. Having team collaboration features so that you can document what's happening in a project and everybody knows what's going on. Having all of your source code version controlled in Git is very important because you need to be able to know at any time what changes have gone into the code, what version is being deployed, who approved which changes, be able to roll back, all of the things that a sophisticated source code management system provides. And again, a rich CI/CD pipeline where you can script any type of action you need to monitor or manage the deployment of your code from dev to test to production. Talk a little bit more about the relationship between Visual Builder and Oracle Cloud applications. New Oracle Cloud apps, like the Fusion applications we talked about earlier, are being developed in Visual Builder. So the new applications, the new Redwood designs you're seeing coming out in the Fusion applications, all of those are built using the tools that we're talking about here. So thousands of developers right now at Oracle are using Visual Builder Studio to create that next generation of Fusion apps. That's great for Oracle. All that productivity available to our developers, make better apps faster. But what's in it for customers is that those same applications and that same tool set are used to configure and extend those applications. In fact, VB is invoked directly from the Fusion Apps UI and uses the built-in CI/CD system to deploy configurations. Let's take a look a little bit deeper about how that works. So again, Oracle application developers are developing the applications in Visual Builder Studio. That's what this top screenshot is depicting. Later, a customer may want to make a change to that application. Most enterprise apps are not deployed out of the box unchanged. They're customized, tailored, extended for a particular organization. And so what VB Studio enables is the customer to take that same application that was developed by Oracle and configure the user experience. That doesn't mean that you're editing the source of the application, because that model would introduce all sorts of challenges for upgrade safety. And if there's one thing that people don't want to do is create a configuration or an application that breaks when we upgrade our Fusion applications, which we do every quarter. So what we've enabled here is a model that says, we build the app, you configure user interface elements of the app in an upgrade safe way without having to touch the source. So let's look at how that works. So we'll take an example here, that same HCM connections application. A particular organization, for whatever reason, decides they don't want to show this department field and its data. Or maybe they just don't want to show it for certain people or certain geographic locations, certain departments. But for whatever reason, they want to configure the application to not show that field. For people with the appropriate roles in Fusion Apps, they will find in this menu under administration a choice to edit the page in Visual Builder. So right from within the application, using the same tool set that we built the application with, you get a configuration experience. So when you choose that, we'll open the application configuration in Visual Builder Studio. And now you're in the development environment. And so you see the application here and all of its configurable elements. These are what we call dynamic forms. Dynamic meaning you can configure at runtime how those forms behave, regardless of how they were configured by Oracle developers. And so we find in this dynamic form area right here, we have this department label that we want to get rid of. And these are all of the dynamic UIs that we can configure. And so when we pick that one, we can open what we call the rule set editor. This is how you define the display logic for this element of the application. And when we do that, we can take the built-in logic and edit it. We can create a new rule. And these rules can be very simple, just expressions. In this case, we're just going to change the default rule to edit what is displayed. And so here we have those 5 fields that were being displayed in that part of the form. There's that department name field. We're just going to go in and click to remove that. So now it's gone. And when we look at the application back in the designer, you can see that department field is no longer in the application. And if we go back and run it, deploy it to our test instance case, the department field is gone. And when we're happy with this, when we've run it through UAT and everybody agrees that that's the right change, we use VB Studio to deploy that change from the test pod that we were developing it on out to whatever production environment or environments the company has. So again, what this means is Oracle's using this powerful tool set and the Redwood design system to build the app. Same powerful tool set is available to customers and partners to configure the application, to change how it works. And that allows you to have this upgrade safe, easy configurability of Oracle apps. But it doesn't stop there. So we talked about Oracle building the apps using this tool set. We talked about Oracle customers extending those applications. But there are also cases where customers need to build entirely new experiences. Again, relying on those same systems of record in their Oracle applications perhaps, but they want to deliver a new experience. The Visual Builder Studio environment allows that as well. So that same powerful development and runtime environment connecting to Oracle applications, third-party applications, Oracle or third-party services, Oracle or other databases, anything that can be connected to via REST or accessible via integration, a huge list of integrations, which even include on-premise applications. So we have customers building web and mobile experiences for their existing on-premise apps, which is great. And so this is really kind of the third category of experience that VB Studio delivers. Number 1 is enables Oracle to build its apps. Number 2, allow Oracle apps customers to extend those apps. Number 3, allow Oracle customers to build just about an app that makes sense to them. And I want to go through 4 examples of real customers that we've worked with who are doing this. First one is Caesars. They have Oracle ERP and other systems, as most customers do, have many systems from many different vendors. They built an application that looks like the Oracle Fusion applications look and feel, but actually integrates multiple data sources, ERP from Oracle as well as other systems, into a seamless experience with single sign-on. And they used Oracle Visual Builder, Java, database, and of course, ERP Cloud. And this delivered for them, the business value was better user efficiency. So the users get one experience across these systems. They were able, using the low-code efficiency of Visual Builder, to get to market more quickly and have lower maintenance effort. So a great result at Caesars. Panasonic took an approach of improving their partner experience. So again, they built an application that integrates data from Oracle Sales Cloud, Eloqua, and Content and Experience, and built a modern UI that delivers a better partner experience. And so they've seen better deal submissions, better e-learning submissions, and they built the whole thing in about 4 months from start to finish using the low-code approach of Visual Builder. They use VB, Developer Cloud, which actually we also call Visual Builder Studio, and then the Sales and Marketing Cloud. McAfee, a very large customer with a lot of end customers themselves, wanted to deliver a better modern customer support experience. So they wanted a customer-facing website on their corporate web that's going to get hit with a lot of traffic, high scale, and they wanted to integrate the back end with the Oracle Engagement Cloud and a set of custom REST services that they built. And so they used VB, Integration Cloud, to integrate all these services, Engagement Cloud, and Digital Customer Service. And they built that entire solution. And finally, Yum Brands. Yum wanted to extend the human capital management module that they have from Oracle, extend that to their franchisees. So give them a subset tailored experience for their restaurant franchisees to use. And so they did a very quick release of a number of apps using VB low-code approach, as well as some JavaScript where needed. And we're able to knit that together into a much better user experience for their franchisees. Again, VB, Java, database, and the HCM cloud. And so that's just 4 customer examples where customers have taken the power of Visual Builder Studio, connected to their Oracle applications, connected to their other apps and on-premise software and services, and deliver new experiences for their customers in a very high productivity way. And so what we've talked about here is this UX platform that we're using to power all of our applications, all the next generation software you see from Fusion applications and other parts of Oracle. We're making that same platform available to extend those applications by our customers and for any of you to use for your own custom or bespoke applications. You can use the Redwood design system, the Jet UI platform, the components and templates we put into Component Exchange for you, and use Visual Builder Studio as your integrated developer experience across all of that. And in fact, VB Studio is available today as a free part of the Oracle Cloud account. So if you have a cloud account with Oracle, you can provision VB Studio at no cost, and that includes the designer capability and all of the CICD, team development, source code management systems. We will also deploy Visual Builder Studio with all Fusion applications in the first half of next year. So we want to make this available very broadly, make sure that everybody has the access to the power of this platform. And if you haven't taken a look at it, I would encourage you to do so. And you can do that in a few ways. If you want to learn more about Oracle design and the Redwood design system, check out design.oracle.com. We also have a link here for Visual Builder Studio, where you can learn more about that. The Jet UI toolkit, particularly for professional JavaScript developers. And I would encourage everybody, if you haven't already, sign up for the Oracle Cloud free tier. That gives you access to a set of services that are always free, plus 30-day trials for a wide range of Oracle Cloud services. And that will let you get started developing with VB, with Jet, using the Redwood design system, exploring the power of VB Studio.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. That was a very informative webinar. That's all that we're going to move to the Q&A portion of the session now. And we've got a bunch of questions, so thank you for submitting those. If you have additional questions, you can add it to the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. So Jeff, let's start with the first question. You talked a lot about Oracle Fusion applications today. Are Visual Builder and Redwood just for Fusion apps?
Good point. Good question. No, the Oracle Fusion applications are essentially the first wave of Oracle applications that are betting heavily on the Redwood design system, Visual Builder, and those component trees. But increasingly, that's being used across Oracle. So you'll see more and more adoption of that, as well as you can use, as I said in some of those examples, you can use Visual Builder, Visual Builder Studio to build just about any user experience on any system you have from Oracle or elsewhere. So it really is a very broad and capable platform.
And I guess as a follow-on, someone's asking, is the platform available today? How does an Oracle customer get access to Visual Builder?
Sure. So yes, all of this, all of what I showed is available today. You can go to that Oracle Cloud free tier, or if you already have an Oracle Cloud account, you can provision VB Studio and the Visual Builder runtime if you need that. And so that's available broadly. VB is also included with Oracle Integration Cloud. So if you're trying, or if you have Integration Cloud, which combines integration, process capabilities, it also includes Visual Builder. And if you're an Oracle Fusion Apps sales and service customer, those Fusion Apps include instances of Visual Builder as well. So it's likely that if you're an Oracle customer today, you have access to these tools.
Excellent. And then another question is, are the Redwood UX icons, are those available for Jet today? And if so, where can you find a list or documentation?
Yeah, so the componentry and the Redwood theme and design is available in Visual Builder today. The components are available in the component exchange. Those are all have been redesigned for Redwood. As we develop, and we're doing this on a continual basis, components, templates, iconography, those will roll out in stages as soon as they're available. So about every quarter, you'll see a new wave. So if something that you saw today isn't available right now, it's coming soon.
Great. We got a question about sample projects and tutorials.
Yes, to get people started and to speed with VB, we have a set of things. We have Oracle University training, blog series from people on our team that go through common scenarios that that people have tried to do. For example, how do I build a dynamic editable table against an Oracle database? And we have those. And we also have increasingly a set of templates that you'll be able to access that give you kind of starter applications. In fact, the Oracle Digital Customer Service team, if you own that product, they ship a set of templates that are VB applications pre-built that then the customer or their partner extends with branding or other functionality and deploys themselves.
Exactly. Yep. Oh, here's a question. What about mobile? So does this platform address that?
Yes. So in two ways. We believe for most enterprise applications, having a responsive web design that scales well from web to mobile without differing code is probably covering the bulk of the experiences that enterprise apps have. Those can be extended by delivering that same experience as a progressive web app. So progressive web app, or PWA, that allows you to deliver a web app that can be installed on device, launches without browser Chrome, has an icon on the device, and so forth. And then finally, VB can also generate a hybrid mobile app, which can be packaged and put in the app stores. So from web to mobile, same functionality, same platform.
Mm-hmm. Great. Here's two that are kind of related. The question is, one, what happens with new releases when you make a change, you hide or move a field from an application? And kind of related to that is another question around, if a customer builds a new UI with VB, how does the maintenance happen from the Oracle end?
Right. Great question. So in the first case, where you're configuring the user experience of an app, like I did in that demo, where you're moving or removing a field, that is preserved across upgrades. So when we upgrade the application every quarter, those changes remain safe. Certainly, if we added a brand new field, you may want to go in and configure that additionally, but the configuration changes that you've made are retained release to release, upgrade safe. That's our commitment. That's our contract amongst the teams, so that customers can bet on that. Now, the second part of that question, if you're building bespoke or a custom builder app, you are accessing a set of REST APIs. In fact, the Fusion Cloud applications have an incredibly rich set of REST APIs that can be accessed from any development tool. And those are all versioned. So if your app bets on a particular version of those APIs, those will still be available. So we can evolve them over time, but they're versioned to prevent breaking existing apps.
Mm-hmm. Okay, here's a multi-part question. He wants clarity on, with this current methodology to perform your customization, such as sandboxes, to define one's own rules? Do they continue to be supported, the rules of their customizations? And I guess as a follow-on to that, he says, how and if at all does Apps Composer, Page Composer, and MDS fit into the scheme?
Right. So there are a range of tools that Oracle has offered over time to do app configuration customization. For existing Fusion applications that have not been reimagined as Visual Builder applications using the Redwood design system, those existing apps have certain more limited customizability capabilities with things like Page Composer, and that is retained, doesn't go anywhere for those applications. When they become implemented as Redwood applications in VB, they'll use VB to do that. For things like App Composer has some really rich functionality for doing business object extensibility. So taking the core data objects that are shipped with the application and either adding a new field, defining new objects, that continues to be the way that you do that. App Composer will let you do that. If you're configuring the user experience of an application built with VB, you'll use VB for the UX part.
Right. And as a follow-on to that is, do your customers of Fusion applications get a basic license to VB then?
Yes. So for doing the configuration scenario that I showed, removing that field, every Fusion app customer will have VB Studio provisioned against their test pod. That will happen in the first half of next year. It turns out most of our customers have VB Studio because they have a cloud account, but we will provision it and wire it up securely to those test pods in the first half of next year. If you need to do things like develop fully independent Visual Builder applications, customers like McAfee have done using Oracle Digital Customer Service, those products include, in addition to VB Studio, the full Visual Builder runtime environment so that you can run those apps independent of Fusion apps if you need to.
And the next question is, so what's the difference then between Oracle Visual Builder and Visual Builder Studio?
Yes, we've created a little confusion there. I'll try to clear it up. So think of Visual Builder as being a designer, the IDE, as well as the runtime. So you build an application in that designer, you can run it and serve it from that runtime. But it doesn't include the powerful source code management, team development, CICD capabilities. Those historically were available in a product from Oracle called Developer Cloud Service. So what we did earlier this year was combine the designer, the application development experience of VB with all of the power of Developer Cloud to create what we call Visual Builder Studio. So Visual Builder Studio is the application design experience, the designer from VB, as well as all of the CI/CD, team development power, source code management of DevCS. If you need to deploy, once you've built an application, depending on where you're going to run it, you may still acquire Visual Builder runtime, or you may deploy it to Integration Cloud, or if it's an app configuration, just back into your Fusion Cloud. So the difference really is that VB Studio is where you want to do all of your development work, all of your sprint planning, control your source. But when you go to deploy it, to run it for your users, you'll be deploying it either to VB Runtime Service, Integration Cloud, which includes the VB Runtime Service, or for an app configuration, a change to an Oracle application, back to the Fusion Applications Cloud.
Great. Here's a question about data access of their SaaS app. When they're building a bespoke UI, what kind of data access do they get in terms of read, delete, edit, et cetera?
You get the full set of capabilities provided by the REST API for that app. So for the Oracle applications, you typically get the full range of capabilities. So for example, if we took a particular object like the account object in the Sales and Service Cloud, you get the ability to add, change, delete update, change the relationship for access child objects, all through the REST APIs. Now, certain objects may be read-only, so they don't have a post method on them. But for most part, the objects are exposing all of the REST capabilities. And you see all of that in VB. So when you access a particular API, it shows you what you can do with each one.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that, Jeff, that the APIs also may have roles that are protecting certain access, and the VB will fully support those roles.
That's a great point, JT. In fact, that is another part of the power of the approach we have, which is leave the critical business data in the system of record, protected by the roles, access control, auditing, compliance that those applications provide. And then when you're accessing those applications, you access them with the identity that you would be using those apps with. So if I don't have access to a particular field, I won't be able to build an application that provides access to that. It will respect and use the role that I have in that app. And that is different than other approaches. Some approaches that people are using involve extracting business data out of the record, munging it up, and building an application against that. And that's appropriate for certain things, but certainly not for sensitive data, not for data that if you're updating it has impact on critical systems where you don't have the business logic and all of a sudden you're trying to inject changes back into the system of record. For the most part, you want to be accessing through those REST APIs, protected by the roles, access controls, auditing, compliance for all your applications. Great point, JT.
Okay, let's see. Boy, there's quite a lot of questions here. Does VBCS need anything installed on the client?
No, it's a completely browser-based development environment. And then the apps you generate are completely browser or mobile. So nothing needs to be installed on the client. And
slightly related is, other than they asked Java and JavaScript, what other technical skills are needed to code in VBCS? Go ahead.
So for the most part, you're building the application using drag and drop and configuring properties. So for a lot of applications, it's low or no code. If you want to get deeper into the code of the app, the technologies are standard JavaScript, HTML, CSS. For most customers, if they are doing something like they need to define a custom module to do a particular data transformation or calculation, they're doing that in JavaScript. But even that, a lot of that can be done, a lot of the business logic can be done using action chains. Again, it's a no code, drag and drop configuration. But a lot of our customers have found that with just a little bit of JavaScript skills, they can get a lot of deeper customization as well.
Yep. And kind of related to this, another question was asked about how this relates or how is it different than using JDeveloper?
JDeveloper is a powerful client-side dev tool, predominantly for developing Java applications. And so that continues to be available. You wouldn't normally use JDeveloper to build a brand new application user experience in the way that VB allows you to do. But JDeveloper continues to be used at Oracle and by customers.
Here's a question about access. When you build applications with Visual Builder and to interact with other systems, can you only do that through REST API?
VB accesses everything from a REST API, yes. But what's also available is the ability to use Oracle Integration Cloud. So Oracle Integration Cloud does the translation between the REST API that VB needs and a lot of different backend systems that might be using SOAP or other protocols, legacy protocols, in some cases proprietary protocols. And so Integration Cloud handles that, serves it up as REST. A lot of other tools in the industry do a similar thing of surfacing APIs that are going to be consumed by a client app as REST. Because really at the end of the day, the bulk of what's happening in these applications is you have a UI running on the client, implemented in JavaScript and HTML, talking to a set of REST APIs. that are served up either natively or through integration.
Yep. Okay, so here's a question that somebody is using ERP today, but they don't see the edit pages in Visual Builder link. They only
Right.
see edit pages. So when is
Right.
that going to happen?
So it depends on two things. One is the particular application needs to be implemented in VB. I don't have in my head the particular list schedule of ERP applications, but as those come out, you will see that appear. And in the quarterly update documentation for the Oracle apps, we will call out which applications are emerging with that capability. It's more and more over time. We're working internally with 40 or 50 different development teams in Fusion Apps who are implementing these VB applications. So stay tuned. They will roll out.
Yeah, and I think one thing to point out is when you start to see Redwood UI in your SaaS product, then that's a pretty good bet that that's been built with Visual Builder at that point, and that is the edit pages is available.
Right. Of course, you have to have the right roles, right? Not everybody can edit those pages. Just the people with the appropriate Fusion Apps roles.
So here's a question about so the Visual Builder that's bundled with SaaS. Can you use that to develop new custom apps from scratch?
You can. The license restriction for VB when it's included with the Oracle Digital Customer Service product is that the app you build needs to at least have some connection back to Oracle Sales and Service. It can also connect to lots of other things, and it may be implementing a conference room reservation application, which has nothing to do directly with digital customer service, but is using data in that system. So if you're connecting back to digital customer service or sales and service, then you're good. If you're developing a brand new application that really has no relationship to Oracle Fusion Apps, then you do that in the Visual Builder that you can license as standalone or as part of Integration Cloud.
Right, and so as a kind of related question is for a customer who already has a past subscription to VB Studio, is it possible to use the already provisioned version that they have for customizing Fusion SaaS, or is the Fusion SaaS a dedicated version within that product?
No, it is possible to do that. The configuration is something that we can help you with, or support folks can make sure that the identity setup for that configuration is correct. We have done that.
Here's a question about Apex and how that compares to VBCS.
Sure. So Apex is a fantastic tool. Apex, if you don't know, is the application development environment. It stands for Application Express that comes with the Oracle database. And what's great about that is any place you have the Oracle database, including on-premise, as well as all of our cloud offerings, includes Apex. And if you're developing a database app, Apex is the way to do it. In fact, one of my favorite features of Apex is if you have a large data set that you want to do some analysis on, some searching, they have something called faceted search, where you point that feature at a particular table of data, and it will automatically generate a table with all of the choices to filter by different criteria and search. It's fantastic. So I think if you have a database application or existing database, Apex is the way to go. Absolutely. If you have Oracle Fusion applications or other Oracle SaaS applications and you want to extend, configure those, then VB is probably the right choice. And of course, they can be used together in the same solution.
Yeah, I was just going to add that we have plenty of customers who are using Apex and exposing tables or database functionality through ORDS, ORDS, that Visual Builder can work with.
Yeah, that's a great point, JT. That's another great feature of Apex is you can take any table or query or view and expose that as a REST API that can then be consumed in a VB app. Yes.
Question about ADF. How does Oracle mix the Fusion applications built with ADF and those built with Visual Builder?
Sure. So ADF, for people who don't know it, is the Oracle Application Development Framework. That is the server-side UX rendering framework that the bulk of Fusion apps historically have been built in and are delivered in today. That continues on to be used in the middle tier and used to serve up business objects as REST APIs. But what's changing is we're moving from in development paradigm, MVC pattern, model view controller pattern, where all the UX is generated on the server, to a pattern where the middle tier is really generating and serving up REST APIs to serve the data to the UX layer built on the client. So ADF is supported, will be around for a long time and heavily used, but new UXs in the new Redwood design system are largely being built in Visual Builder using the Jet UI toolkit.
Okay, so scrolling through a few more questions here. So going forward then, I guess this is the conclusion, will we be using VBCS to personalize and customize Oracle Cloud apps?
Sorry, JT, can you repeat that?
Yeah, so the question is kind of a leading question, which is going forward, should we be using VBCS to personalize and customize Oracle Cloud apps?
Yeah, the answer is yes. So as more and more modules within Fusion applications and other Oracle SaaS apps are delivered as Visual Builder apps, then you get the no-code, upgrade-safe extensibility that I demonstrated.
Yep.
And depending on what you mean by extension, of course, like the 4 customers I mentioned, many customers are developing new UIs in VB, connecting back to their Fusion apps and other things, and serving those up as effectively part of the Fusion apps user experience for their employees and customers and partners. So the answer is yes, in a couple of flavors.
And those types of standalone apps can be hosted as standalone, or they can be embedded back into the SaaS application to look like a page of that application as well.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a very common use case.
So is Oracle planning to rewrite also existing Oracle Fusion apps, or will it be used only for new apps?
The focus right now is really on the new modules, although for things like the expenses application that I showed the example of, that is an existing module, of course, that gets implemented. So really it's based on where the customer demand is and where the best opportunities are. And then we'll just keep going until we've implemented everything the customers want, or most everything.
So a question about how VB is a browser-based IDE, but are there plans to introduce plugins for other IDEs like Visual Studio Code, for example?
We've gotten some good feedback from folks who want to use a wide range of tooling. VS Code is of course a popular one. And so we're looking into different ways to support that. For example, we have VS Code extensions for Jet development. We have a Chrome debugger tool for VB action chains. And so increasingly, and I appreciate that feedback, we do want to provide connectivity to other development tooling so that people can work on one application using a variety of tooling. For example, if you have a pro coder who's coding JavaScript all day, they probably want to use the editor of their choice, VS Code, a popular one. We want to make it easy for them to do that, and as well as have their component participate in that larger VB app. So stay tuned.
And to some extent, you can do that today by checking the code from VB into your Visual Builder Studio Git repository,
yes,
checking it out locally and using your favorite editor of choice.
Certainly, yes.
Okay, well, we're pretty much at the end of our time for questions. So let's switch to the thank you slide. Before you go, though, we're going to do a quick poll. And we'd like you to let us know what you thought of the program so that we can make improvements as we go along. We hope you learned something to take back to your business. If you have any additional questions that did not get answered, please feel free to send a note to the email address you see on the screen. And we will be following up in the next 48 hours with the link to the webinar replay, the PDF of the presentation you saw today, and a link to check out our ongoing registration for weekly Oracle at Oracle webinars. Thank you all for joining, and hope to see you again virtually in another Oracle at Oracle webinar.
Thanks, everybody.